All right. Welcome to this episode of Technically Short. I'm Thomas.
I'm Shawn.
And this episode we're talking about, this is Shawn's idea.
Healthy rejection.
Yeah, healthy rejection. Saying no, we were talking about this earlier. Saying no to the right things, which means you're actually saying no to the wrong things. It's confusing. But saying no to the right things, healthy rejection, that's probably even a better way to say it.
I love healthy rejection.
But yeah, Shawn, so why don't you define that for us?
Okay. So normally when we think about rejection, guys, we think of something bad, but let me read the definition of rejection, okay?
Oh. Okay.
So, rejection is the dismiss of inappropriate or not one's taste. That's one definition, right? The other one is to refuse to agree. So, to refuse to agree is more what we're talking about. Because some taste and stuff like rejection, that's based off of personal opinion, right? But what we're talking about is to refuse to agree. What we're saying is refusing to agree to the wrong things. Sometimes it's a wrong thing. Sometimes it's a good thing just at the wrong time. So that we're gonna dive deeper into that, but that's where I think we're landing the plane.
Yeah, I think kind of where he was going with, kind of where you were going with that, Shawn, is like rejecting rejecting the good and the bad to focus on the great things.
Absolutely.
And with me in particular, just a quick example for me, just to put it into some perspective, with my finances, the area where I've had to say no a lot is going out to eat with people whenever anytime Shawn would ask,
which is all the time.
I meal prep and do everything I can to save money and still be healthy, and also be able to pay off my student loans, which in this case is the great thing that I'm working on doing, and I'm very close. All the times that I've said no have compounded and added up to me being able to do something great.
Amen.
And I think that's one thing that I won't go too far into this yet, at least. But that's one thing I really think I would think about this earlier today, actually. God, the greatest power God gave us is the power of choice.
Absolutely.
And that's the greatest power He gave us. And sometimes we choose wrong, sometimes we choose right, but he turns it all out for His good, right? Yep. So we have these choices to be able to reject, or like Shawn was saying, not agreeing with our internal what our internal heart soul wants to do, but agreeing with what maybe our spirit is saying.
Absolutely. And
saying, okay, I shouldn't be doing this, even though I want to. Even though it necessarily wouldn't be a bad thing to do, other people wouldn't see it as something bad for me to do. Other people looking outside, from the outside in, people might even think it's pretty normal for me to do this. However, I know what I'm working towards. I know what the Spirit is telling me. So should I focus on what is normally done? Or should I focus on the greater choice, the greater option? That makes sense?
It makes sense. Definitely makes sense. And I feel like that right there, what you were talking about, that is the refuse to agree. And I think that's so important, because there's times in life your friends will be like, hey, let's go out, but you need to study for your test. There will be times in life where there's a relationship, but you're not ready for that relationship yet, so you have to refuse to agree. Or God's telling you that relationship specifically, that she's not spiritually equipped enough to date you, so you should need to refuse to agree. There's times where healthy rejection is needed, and if we don't apply rejection in a healthy way, and we only think about it being negative, then we'll accept and approve everything that is not for us.
Right. And I want to touch on that relationship thing again real quick, because I liked that. I really did. I think, like, whenever it comes to relationships, like, it happens, like, it doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes girls ask guys out.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen all that much. But when it does happen, the guy, like, for me in particular, like, I don't date a lot. I'm not like I'm not like, maybe that will change. Maybe that changes one day.
Well,
I don't date,
after this episode.
Yeah, I don't need to go do a full definition of what that means for me. But I don't date a lot in general my whole life, you know. But like the saying no to somebody because it like wouldn't be good for either of you, or also saying no to yourself about saying no to yourself about. I was just talking about this with Andrew the other day. Like saying no to yourself about a girl who maybe you think is attractive and stuff, but not just when it, like, say, like, ignore maybe she meets your criteria of being a Christian and is good looking, but like throwback, but
yeah,
but
that was one of those healthy rejections I had to reject.
Right, but yeah, it might not be necessarily on the surface look bad, but internally you're like, yeah, there's something, God's got something better out there for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's might not even be saying anything about the person. It might just be like, yeah, there's somebody else out there for me that might be a better fit. And actually, kind of coming down to this, I think some people might be thinking, like, how do you know what to reject?
Oh, that's good. I love that. That honestly, that is a good question. I feel like me and Thomas were talking about earlier. So some things you have to like work out, and you get to figure out who you are, and more about knowing yourself. You're able to reject some things. Like we were talking about earlier that like for instance the study thing, right? Some people are okay to just be out all night and then still pass their tests. Other people are not. So like some people need that 8 hours before a test. So that would be like one of those things where you have to know yourself. But then there's times where we should just know this is not the right thing to do. And by that is like, by that healthy rejection, you need God to discern like where you're gonna go. And sometimes if you can't feel God, your alignment should be what Thomas said. I love this, where he said like your stomach should be aligned with God, so that way like how did you say it? It was so like your gut. Your gut.
Yeah, the way,
so your gut feeling.
Right. It's the way like I'll say like tell you what, like this is from Pastor Ed, who he said,
we love you, Pastor Ed.
We have to have him on the show at some point because we shout him out so much. I think he said that. I think he mentioned that to me. But
we should.
But it was that. Let me think about it. If I'm truly aligned with Christ, if I don't know what I'm supposed to do, if I don't know what God's telling me, and I know though that I'm aligned with Christ, then my gut inadvertently would be aligned with Him too.
Absolutely.
So and I've done this since then. I've done this a lot, and just kind of sat down like, what's my gut telling me in this situation whenever I'm not sure, and like I would say 9.5 times out of 10, if not full 10 out of 10 times, my gut, my initial feeling, like that's purely like without emotion, how the core of me believes I should move, and so that's the direction I move, and it's worked out. And whenever I've gone against that feeling, it does not work out in my favor. So I think that for me, that's whenever you're not sure
Right.
what you reject. Whenever it's not obvious.
Right.
It's not for every situation. Like, sure, every situation your gut's going to be in play, but some situations you won't need to go that deep into yourself. Some situations are going to be very obvious, like whenever sin is involved. Whenever you might go to that website,
Yep.
and you know that you want to, you've done it before, plenty of other people do it, but it'd be bad for you.
Right.
Or it's bad in general.
Right. And that goes for, like, I would go even deeper onto that. That would be like, if you know that you can't go to a bar without drinking and going crazy and sleeping with somebody, then you shouldn't go to the bar. Like, that's where healthy rejection comes in, right? So it's like learning what you can do and what you can't do. If you know that you got a wife, then if you get a phone number from a lady that you're going to be texting her inappropriately, then you should not get a girl's phone number when you have a wife, period. It's just like you're learning yourself enough to know, like, these are the things I can do, these are the things I can't do, because the things I can't do is going to bring me beneath what God's called me for. The things I can't do are going to cause me to sin. The things I can't do are going to destroy my calling, purpose, family, community. Those are type of things where you got to know healthy rejection. This is where it comes down, and why it's so important is because you have to know yourself to know what you're capable of, and anything that is going to take you away from God is an automatic rejection.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. I had something. I started writing a word. I wrote how, and then I did not write anything else. I got lost in thought. But I know I wanted to kind of give another personal example. There, yeah. So I was going to touch back on kind of what I was talking about before, about my personal example of saying no because I wanted to save money so I could pay off my student loans. In the moment of doing those things, sometimes it felt like it sucked. Because I wanted to be social. I wanted to, like, in those moments, like, maybe that was, it wasn't the only opportunity to be social. But me, in my mind, I was like, well, either I do that, I have to go home and do this. And sometimes I'll figure out a different plan. But, like, sometimes, though, regardless, like, sometimes, like, whenever you making the right choice is not easy and it's not fun a lot of the time.
I'd agree.
And I don't want to say the majority of the time, but I would say
majority is fair.
Majority is fair.
You can say majority.
But like but though, after the fact, when you get further down the road, and you can look back and you can like, man, and you can sit there and actually be proud of yourself. Like, you can be like, man, like, sure, I could have went out. Sure, I could have spent my money and bought myself a couple more nice things. But I decided not to. I decided to say I decided not to. I decided to save. I decided to not stay home by myself, because sometimes it can feel uncomfortable. Then making the decision I'm going to shift, like making the decision instead of being antisocial to be social. Because making the right decision isn't always, it's like very, like in a lot of situations, like we're already talking about, like doesn't feel good, but it's for your good.
Absolutely.
It's like you there's a feeling you have, like, maybe I should be doing this, maybe I should go out and do this more, maybe I should, like, this is one thing I tell people a lot, like, if you're part of a church like Amplify and you haven't joined a small group yet, then you need to get in one, because you need community in your life. And if you're like me, who is like somebody that like spends a lot of time by themselves, just that's kind of like the road my life has taken me on. Like, then like you really need community, and you need to make that choice, and that's a choice that you need to make, and maybe that's the decision. I know there's a decision, and like this is directly to the listener. I know there's a decision in your life right now that you keep putting off because it's an uncomfortable decision to make, but you know inevitably it would be a good decision. And it may be a decision that you have to do over and over and over again. Like saying no to the donut. It's when you go to church on Sunday. Like, the more, if the same thing applies. The more, if you feel like you need to get healthier and you want to go to the gym, or actually you don't want to go to the gym. Let's be real, you don't want to go to the gym. You want to stay at home and be comfortable being yourself, but you know you need to get healthier. So, do you do what's uncomfortable, or do you say no, you reject what you want to do, and essentially confront yourself, and say, no, I actually will go out and do the uncomfortable, because that's going to make me better.
That's so good. Honestly, where I'm gonna touch on that. That is perfect. What Thomas is talking about is healthy rejection at its finest. And when that happens, it leads to discipline and it leads to self-control. And you know what's really good about those two things? On the other side of all the things you're rejecting is your goals, your dreams, your achievements. And it all happens when you have self-control and when you reject things that you should. Honestly, sometimes my biggest financially is rejecting small things, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All these small things add up for me. If I could reject all the stuff that I normally do on a daily basis, I'd have a lot more finances. I've had a lot of wise people like Pat Williams, Brandon, Pastor Ed, Thomas, my sister Shamira. A lot of wise people tell me to do better with my finances. And honestly, my biggest issue is finances. Because I don't reject enough stuff that like most of them do. Because they have such great discipline and such self-control in that area. Like spiritually, I'm good at rejecting a lot of things spiritually. But when I get like prideful, I fall, of course. Because I'm not perfect. So anytime I think I'm like the man and forget who God is where I fall. And that's what happened to me recently at work, while I'm in a new area, new job and stuff. It's because I let the pride get to me, and the enemy gets you when he lets that fall in. So like rejection, if I would have just been on my normal rejection level, I would have healthily rejected the thing that got me fired. And it wasn't nothing criminal or nothing stupid. It was just something that was very stupid.
It wasn't any criminal or something stupid. It was just something stupid.
Yeah, it was just something stupid.
Oh, man. No.
That's good, right?
Yeah. Were you done?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I didn't want to be like, are you done talking now?
No.
No, but, no. I think, like, acknowledging those things is good.
Yeah.
Right? Acknowledging what you've done wrong so that you can now then do right. Like, and actually, like, that's actually a huge step. Because if... I feel like people know inwardly, what they're doing. Like, I felt like the whole time you knew, like, every time you made a small transaction, you're like, man, people are going to be so mad at me right now if they knew I was doing this.
I know.
And, like, you know, like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, but you did it anyway. And now you're actually acknowledging it and be like, yeah, actually, maybe I should have listened to that voice in my head.
Yeah.
And that happens so much to everybody. Like, maybe and that's your gut. That's your gut. That's the spirit in you being like, hey, what are you doing? Knock that off. Like, I get that that's not a really necessarily a bad thing, but it's leading to a bad thing.
True.
Eat. Oh, Twinkies are bad, but I just saw a picture of Twinkies a little bit ago.
I love Twinkies.
but donuts taste good, but you have 100 of them, and eat one every day, or 3 every day. Probably gonna get fat.
Yep.
Which isn't good. But now I want to touch on actually what you were talking about your finances earlier.
Yeah.
Because because I think, like, personally, I feel like that's why you and I are one of the reasons why you and I are roommates.
Yeah, by God.
Like, yeah,
God's design.
Yeah, we've already talked about how we lined up. I think you did.
The divine appointment.
Yeah.
Honestly, I agree with that.
But I feel like you teach me some things to say no to, and you actually teach me more things to say yes to than to say no to. Just to be honest. But the main thing you teach me, the main thing you taught me just by being around you is how to be more social, because you are like, whenever you're around people, you're the social butterfly.
It's all God, man.
And like, I'm not, and I'm okay with that.
But
But
I'm getting way better. Like,
I'm way better than I used to be.
Yeah,
And like, I blame, it's necessarily a bad thing. Like, I can blame that on you and multiple on you and other people other good people in my life. I watch and I admire the certain things about them, and like with me to you, like, I know I'm pretty good with my finances, managing my money, and like, that's one area where I feel like being around you enough, and also you being around other people who are good with our finances, enough people have planted enough seeds that eventually they took a little bit of a root.
Yeah. I would say so for sure.
And
100%.
So, like, again, I think that happens with anything. And I want to do a whole episode about planting seeds, because that's something huge, and I really want to talk about that.
Yeah, I think it was a great episode.
For sure. But like, whenever I talked about that, the image in my head that popped up was like a giant pile of seeds, and like them being blown away by the wind. And then there's a couple that get left behind.
That's fair.
That's the image that popped up in my head. And like, it's not to bash you, it's just what's been happening. Like,
you're not wrong. We have a lot of people who are great in finances have been like giving me wisdom, and at the time I was just like, I was the hard ground, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Where the Bible talks about like the hard ground where the seeds just get put on the ground and it wouldn't go inside the ground, so they get blown away. So like, your analogy would be spot on.
Man. Okay, yeah, wind blowing away, crows picking it up, But I don't know, I honestly feel like that's a good place to end the episode.
I mean, it's a good episode.
Yeah, I feel like this was I said this last time, but I feel like these keep getting better and better.
Oh, honestly, Healthy Rejection, one of my favorites.
This was definitely a really good topic. So, if you haven't already, guys, we're gonna wrap it up. Oh wait, we didn't do anything. Well, that was kind of fun in itself.
Yeah, it was good. Good stuff.
But yeah, guys, if you haven't already, we're gonna wrap it up. If you haven't already, I said that 3 times now.
Like, subscribe.
Yep.
Give us a 5-star.
There we go. Yeah, give us a review. Let us know how we're doing. If you're listening on Spotify, let us know what you think of the episode by answering the Q&A that I believe shows up under the episode. Is that how that works? I actually don't know. I just know they're there. I don't use Spotify that much.
I use Spotify all the time. I think you're right. I think there is a Q&A after them.
I know there is. Because Dave Miller commented on one of them.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, so there is Q&As, guys. Make sure you're doing the Q&As if they pop up. If not, like, share on all your social media accounts.
Yeah, and if you guys like this episode, or if you like our podcast in general, just like shoot us a message and give us some encouragement. Eventually, maybe we'll have and I'm gonna throw this out there. I don't know if this will be done by the time this episode comes out, but I do want us to set up some donation links.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So like it'll be like to buy us a coffee or just donate directly to the podcast, whatever it is. It's just so like we can eventually buy a camera or anything. Buy a camera, maybe a second mic. Things to like
make our studio better.
Yeah, allow us to give you a better experience, and maybe even eventually like it'd be awesome to be able to have videos, especially with a guest.
Absolutely.
So that and like. I have visions for this podcast in the future, so we definitely need your guys' help to share. Definitely need your guys' help to share it and get it out to more people. I really feel like this one specifically will help somebody, so please share it with whoever you feel like needs to hear it.
We love the Technically Short family. Goodbye, guys.
Almost. Oh man, this is another awkward ending, isn't it? Sorry for the no edits. All right. See ya.
See ya.